The story begins in a dark forest filled with strange monsters. Kim Woo-jin, a man with messy black hair and tired eyes, is pinned to the ground by a multi-eyed monster. The creature holds his shoulders down while drool falls from its mouth. Woo-jin struggles as the monster opens its jaws, showing rows of sharp teeth. Blood splatters as the attack continues. Woo-jin remembers the rule he has learned. If he dies here, he will wake up again. He suddenly wakes up in his bed, gasping for air and covered in sweat. He is back in his room. This has been happening for 12 years. Woo-jin looks exhausted with dark circles under his eyes and unshaven stubble. He touches his neck, still feeling the pain from the dream. Every night feels like a real death. Outside, the city is normal and busy. The peaceful environment is completely different from the forest he sees in his sleep. During the day, Woo-jin studies the monsters he fights at night. His room is filled with notebooks containing monster drawings, anatomy notes, and weaknesses. His apartment is packed with training equipment like weights and boxing bags. Everything he does during the day is preparation for the nightmare world. Even though he is extremely tired, he is afraid to sleep. Whenever he closes his eyes, he returns to that forest. He remembers many of the ways he died there, including being torn apart by a wolf-like beast and being pierced by a blade. The rule never changes. If he dies in a dream, he wakes up in reality. The repeated deaths slowly wear down his mind. Sitting on his bed, Woo-jin coughs and holds his chest. Every time he rests, another battle begins. For 12 years, he has lived between two worlds. During that time, he trained constantly in the Nightmare Forest. He learned weapons, martial arts, and survival skills. In that world, he became sharp, focused, and deadly. He moves carefully and cuts down monsters with precise strikes. With enough training, he began dying less often. However, nothing changes in reality. Back in his room, Woo-jin holds his head in frustration. No matter how strong he becomes there, he always wakes up in the same weak body. At one point, he visits a psychiatrist. After listening to him, she suggests that he find a hobby or something he wants to do. Later, Woo-jin repeats her words to himself. Standing in his room and looking at the board filled with monster research, he realizes something. He is no longer afraid of the nightmare world. He simply wants to fall asleep and never wake up again. Kim Woo-jin looks completely drained. His messy hair and stubble show the toll of 12 years without proper rest. He only wants to sleep peacefully for one night. Suddenly, blood drips from his nose. A moment later, blood pours from his mouth and stains his hands. Woo-jin clutches his chest in shock as his body finally collapses under years of strain. His vision begins to blur and he loses consciousness. The headache that followed him for 12 years slowly fades away. With a heavy thud, he collapses onto the floor and lies face down in a pool of blood. His body remains motionless. His life in the real world has ended. In the darkness, Woo-jin feels something strange. His body feels light, and the pain that had been constant for years is gone. When he opens his eyes, he sees a blue sky above him. Fresh air fills his lungs. For the first time in many years, his body feels rested. He slowly sits up and sees large trees surrounding him. He quickly realizes where he is. He has returned to the nightmare world. Woo-jin leans against the roots of a large tree. He is wearing his hunter gear, and his body looks younger and healthier than before. For 12 years, he suffered in this place. But waking up here, while feeling this well, is new. Suddenly, he senses something nearby. His instincts warn him that he is being watched. A reptile demon beast appears behind a tree. Its long tongue moves as it observes him. The creature is muscular and fast, clearly treating him as prey. Woo-jin stays quiet behind a tree root and watches it carefully. He remembers the blood he lost in his apartment and understands what happened. He really died in the real world. This forest is now his only world. Woo-jin lowers his body and pulls up his hood to hide himself. If this place is his new reality, he must survive using everything he learned over the past 12 years. He slowly stands up. If he dies now, there will be no waking up again. This time death will be permanent. His expression becomes calm and focused. From now on, he will treat this place as his real world. The reptile demon beast prepares to attack, unaware that Woo-jin already understands how it hunts. Woo-jin studies the situation and decides not to fight immediately. He plans to lure the monster into a place where it will lose its advantage. After years of training, his instincts return. He pulls out his dagger and prepares to move. Then Woo-jin lunges forward, swinging his blade toward the reptile beast and beginning the hunt. Kim Woo-jin stands his ground and notices that his body feels light and energetic. He wonders if it is because he finally slept properly or because this younger body is different from the weak one he had before. The reptile demon beast suddenly lunges at him with great speed. Its claws dig into the ground as it snaps its jaws. The creature is large and powerful, but Wu Jin does not move back. The monster roars and rushes forward. Wu Jin grips his sword tightly. His focus sharpens, and the hesitation he once had disappears. After 12 years of constant fighting, his instincts take over. He swings his blade in a precise strike and cuts through the monster's thick hide. Blood sprays as the blade slices through the creature's neck. The reptile demon beast collapses onto the ground. Wu Jin stands over the fallen body. His clothes are covered in blood, but he remains calm and focused. In the distance, tall pillars of light rise into the sky, showing that there is more to this world beyond the forest. Wu Jin kneels beside the corpse and cuts open the monster's chest. He searches inside and finds a glowing blue core. The core pulses with energy. He holds it in his hand and studies it carefully, understanding that it is important for survival in this world. The power inside the core confirms what he already suspected. Hunting monsters will make him stronger. After a moment, he leaves the carcass behind and walks deeper into the forest. He no longer thinks about the world he left behind. His only goal now is survival. He moves quietly through the forest, heading toward a brighter area where he hopes to find a safer place. Wu Jin does not realize that someone is watching him. A blonde hunter named Han Shan stands hidden behind a tree, observing him from a distance. Shan has been surviving in this world for some time and is studying the newcomer carefully. The forest remains quiet, but the danger of hidden monsters is always present. Wu Jin closes his eyes for a brief moment to rest. After a full night of sleep, he wakes up feeling refreshed. It is the first proper rest he has had in years. He slowly gets used to living in this harsh world as a lone survivor. The forest appears quiet, but Kim Wu Jin does not lower his guard. It has been a month since he arrived in this world. He moves through the forest carefully, searching for food. Even though he can fight, he avoids unnecessary battles. Fighting without a reason is dangerous here. From the shadows, he watches a bat-like monster feeding on another creature. He waits patiently beside a tree, studying the right moment to attack. He only hunts when he needs food, and the monster looks like a suitable meal. When the opportunity comes, Wu Jin moves quickly. His blade cuts through the air and strikes the creature before it can react. The monster collapses immediately. A glowing blue core appears inside its body. Wu Jin already knows what it is. These cores are the source of strength in this world. He removes the core and consumes it. Energy spreads through his body as the power settles into his muscles. Since he began consuming these cores, surviving in this environment has become easier. After resting for a moment, he checks the belongings of the body he now inhabits. Inside a leather pouch, he finds a bronze token. The writing on it is unfamiliar, but he can read it. The token shows that the body belonged to a third-class mercenary. This small discovery reveals something important. This world is not only filled with monsters. There are also people, organizations, and settlements. While thinking about this, Wu Jin notices something unusual on the ground. He quickly steps back and realizes he almost triggered a trap. Hidden under the dirt is a large bear trap connected to a chain. It was clearly placed by a human. That means someone else is hunting in this forest. Wu Jin becomes more alert and begins searching the area carefully. Soon he notices a building in the distance. He moves toward it. At the edge of the forest, he sees a small house standing alone among the trees. The cabin looks well maintained. Wu Jin approaches and knocks on the door, but no one answers. After waiting briefly, he pushes the door open and steps inside. The cabin is quiet but filled with supplies. On a wooden table sits a leather-bound book. Wu Jin walks closer and looks at it carefully. Something about the book immediately catches his attention. Wu Jin picks up the book and reads the title. It is called Demonic Realm Chronicles. The name immediately catches his attention. As he holds the book, he suddenly senses someone behind him. He stops moving and realizes he is not alone in the cabin. He opens the book and flips through the pages. Inside are detailed records about the world, including its history and creatures. Wu Jin quickly understands that the information in this book could help him survive. He grips the book tightly, knowing he needs it. Just as he prepares to leave, a floorboard above him cracks. Someone drops down from the ceiling and points a crossbow at him. An old man stands in front of him with the weapon aimed directly at his head. The man demands to know who he is and warns him not to move. Wu Jin is relieved to see another person, but the situation is tense. He keeps his hands visible and calmly explains that he entered the cabin out of curiosity. The old man does not accept the explanation and orders him to leave immediately. Jin slowly steps back, pretending to comply, but his attention remains on the book. He knows he cannot survive without the knowledge inside it. He asks if he can borrow the book and even offers to pay for it. The old man refuses and asks what Jin will do if he does not agree. Jin realizes he may need to force the situation. His hand moves toward the weapon at his waist. He draws his blade. The old man immediately raises the crossbow in response. Both of them stand still, watching each other closely. The small cabin becomes silent as they wait to see who will move first. After a moment, the old man lowers his weapon. He says that a real robber would not argue about books. He introduces himself as Hector. Jin quickly gives a false name and introduces himself as Kim Jin. He asks Hector to call him Jean. Hector finds the name unusual but does not question it. Jin worries that his lie might be obvious, but Hector does not press the matter. Hector explains that the book is important to him and cannot be taken away. However, he allows Jin to stay in the cabin and read it there. In return, Jin agrees to help with simple chores. Night falls outside the cabin. Inside, a pot of vegetable soup cooks over the fire as Jin begins staying in Hector's small house in the forest. Hector may seem rough and blunt, but he is not a bad person. He tells Jin to eat and regain his strength. For the first time in a long time, Jin eats a warm home-cooked meal. The simple soup comforts him, and he quietly enjoys it. The next morning, Hector prepares his gear and says he is heading into the forest. He explains that he is hunting a monster that killed his former comrades. Before leaving, he warns Jin that the hunt may take a long time. Jin watches him leave the cabin with a crossbow on his shoulder. Hector appears strong, but his serious expression shows that the monster he is chasing is dangerous. After Hector leaves, Jin picks up the Demonic Realm Chronicles and begins reading. The book describes the fall of the Northern Empire. According to the records, the emperor opened a mysterious gate in search of power. When the seal was broken, a red pillar of light appeared in the sky. Creatures from another realm began pouring out. Within 9 years, the northern lands were overrun by monsters and became known as the Demonic Realm. Humanity later formed the Order Alliance and built a massive barrier to stop the spread of the creatures. Jin finishes reading and thinks about what he learned. The book also explains that monsters grow stronger the deeper one travels into the realm. The information helps him understand the world he now lives in. Meanwhile, Hector is running through the forest while being chased by monsters. He moves quickly through the trees, trying to escape. Behind him, a pack of wolf-like beasts appears. Their bodies are twisted and their eyes glow red. Hector realizes he cannot outrun them. The lead wolf suddenly attacks. Hector barely avoids the strike and slides across the ground. He quickly raises his crossbow and fires 3 arrows in succession. The arrows fly toward the wolves, but the creatures react immediately. Instead of dodging, they catch the arrows with their claws and stop the attack. The wolves surround Hector from all sides, cutting off every escape. His arrows fail to stop them, and he realizes the situation is getting worse. Age is starting to slow him down. While preparing for the next attack, Hector notices a figure approaching from the direction of his cabin. He is surprised to see Jin standing there. Jin steps forward and draws his large blade. Hector immediately shouts for him to run, knowing how dangerous the wolves are. But Jin does not retreat. Instead, he leaps forward with great speed and lands in the middle of the pack. His expression becomes cold as he moves directly into the fight. One of the wolves rushes toward him. Jin swings his blade downward and cuts the creature in half. The wolf collapses instantly. The remaining wolves hesitate after seeing one of their own fall so quickly. Hector watches in shock as Jin stands calmly in the middle of the clearing. For a moment, the clearing becomes quiet. Jin stands still while blood drips from his blade. He asks Hector whether the monster he killed was considered strong. Hector looks at him in disbelief. The creature Jin killed is known to be extremely dangerous, and most hunters cannot defeat one alone. Jin listens but remains calm. He turns his attention toward the forest where the rest of the pack is gathering. More wolves appear from the trees. There are dozens of them. Jin estimates there are around 40. Even so, he does not appear worried. Instead of charging in blindly, he studies the pack and searches for their leader. He knows that if the second in command is eliminated, the pack's morale will collapse. After observing them carefully, he identifies the target. A large red wolf stands at the front of the group. Its presence keeps the other wolves from retreating. Jin watches it closely, planning to eliminate it first. As the pack prepares to attack, the red wolf suddenly lowers its head. A moment later, it turns around and runs. The rest of the wolves freeze for a moment. When their leader flees, their confidence disappears. One by one, they begin retreating as well. Soon the entire pack runs back into the forest. The fight ends without another strike. Wu Jin stands in the clearing and watches them leave. He makes no attempt to chase them. Hector observes everything from a distance, unable to believe what just happened. The wolves that had surrounded him moments ago fled without fighting. He realizes Wu Jin forced the pack to break by targeting their morale rather than fighting them directly. After the wolves disappear, the forest becomes quiet again. Later, the two return to Hector's cabin. Hector lays out the hide from the werewolf they killed earlier and explains that it is worth 40 gold coins. Wu Jin is unfamiliar with the currency and asks if that amount is significant. Hector explains that 40 gold coins is enough for someone to live comfortably for several years. Wu Jin looks at the hide again. To him, the monster was not particularly difficult to defeat, so he is surprised by its value. He begins to realize that hunting monsters could be a reliable way to earn money in this world. Hector then prepares supplies for him. He gives Wu Jin some jerky, silver coins, and a map that shows the route to Pioneer Village. He also tells him to visit a man named Jacob in the village. Jacob is known to buy monster materials. Wu Jin hesitates to accept the items, but Hector insists. The hide, he says, is payment for killing the monster that had taken the lives of his former comrades. After explaining this, Hector thanks Wu Jin for helping him settle that old score. He expresses his appreciation and hopes they may meet again in the future. Wu Jin and Hector shake hands, ending their short partnership. Wu Jin thanks him for the help and prepares to leave with the map and supplies Hector gave him. He bows once before leaving the cabin and follows the path on the map into the forest. Hector watches him disappear among the trees. While Wu Jin walks through the forest, a pair of eyes watches him from a distance. The red wolf from earlier, Mutt, stands on a rock and silently follows his movements. The wolf does not attack and simply keeps observing him. After some time, Wu Jin reaches the outskirts of Pioneer Village. The settlement is surrounded by large wooden walls built to keep monsters out. At the gate, armed guards stop him and question him before allowing him inside. Wu Jin walks through the muddy streets and notices that the town is full of armed mercenaries and rough-looking people. The atmosphere feels tense, and everyone watches strangers carefully. He remains cautious. In a place like this, people can be just as dangerous as monsters. Following Hector's directions, he finds a tavern where he is supposed to meet Jacob. Inside, the place is loud and crowded. Wu Jin walks through the room and goes directly to the bar. He places his pack on the counter and asks the bartender about Jacob. The bartender glances toward a man sitting nearby. The man approaches and introduces himself as Jacob. Wu Jin tells him that Hector sent him and mentions the werewolf hide. Jacob quickly becomes interested and begins examining the hide carefully. His reaction shows how valuable the item is. Wu Jin does not correct Jacob when he assumes Hector killed the monster. He simply waits for the payment. Wu Jin waits for his payment while Jacob examines the werewolf hide. The man is clearly impressed by its quality and keeps praising Hector, believing the old hunter was the one who killed the beast. In Jacob's mind, there is no way someone like Wu Jin could have hunted such a monster. As he studies the hide, Jacob begins planning to keep it without paying. Soon several large thugs step out from around the tavern and surround Wu Jin. It becomes clear that the situation was planned from the start. Jacob throws the hide over his shoulder and tells Wu Jin to leave if he values his life. He claims the hide is simply repayment for money Hector supposedly owed him. Wu Jin immediately understands that Jacob never intended to pay. For a moment, he considers killing him on the spot, but restrains himself. Jacob then throws beer in Wu Jin's face and tells him to leave. Wu Jin remains silent while the tavern grows quiet. The thugs move closer and draw their weapons. Instead of responding, Wu Jin calmly stands up and walks toward the door. Jacob laughs, believing the threat worked. However, just before reaching the exit, Wu Jin suddenly lifts a large cabinet and slams it against the door, blocking the way out. The loud crash echoes through the tavern. Wu Jin turns slightly and calmly tells Jacob that if he planned to rob someone, he should have done it properly instead of trying a cheap trick. Jacob becomes angry and orders his men to attack. The thugs rush forward together, swinging their weapons. One of them charges first. Wu Jin watches him approach without moving. Then, in a quick motion, he draws his blade. Wu Jin decides not to hold back. When the first thug attacks, Wu Jin easily parries the strike. The clash of weapons echoes in the room. The thug freezes in shock after realizing how fast Wu Jin reacted. Before he can respond, Wu Jin strikes back and cuts him down. Another thug swings a heavy axe toward Wu Jin's head. The axe crashes into the floor, but Wu Jin has already moved. He appears behind the attackers and prepares for the next move. There are too many enemies to fight slowly. Wu Jin decides to break their momentum. He grabs a heavy table and throws it forward. The table crashes into one of the attackers and knocks him down. Before the man can recover, Wu Jin strikes again and finishes him. The fight continues as Wu Jin moves quickly between the attackers. His blade cuts through the thugs one after another. The tavern soon becomes a wreck as the fight spreads across the room. Jacob watches the scene in panic as his men fall one after another. Wu Jin's movements are controlled and efficient after years of fighting monsters. Another thug attacks, but Wu Jin easily avoids the strike and counters with a powerful blow. The attacker collapses. Within moments, most of the thugs are already down. Wu Jin stands calmly among the fallen bodies. His clothes are stained with blood, but his expression remains unchanged. Seeing this, Jacob finally panics and orders the remaining men to run. The survivors rush toward the exit, abandoning the hide and escaping through the doors and windows. The tavern becomes quiet again. Outside, Jacob collapses on the ground while trying to catch his breath. He believes he has escaped. Then he looks up and sees something approaching. A massive red wolf has entered the village. The creature snarls as people begin to panic and run away. The wolf slowly walks toward Jacob. At the same time, Wu Jin steps out of the tavern and notices the animal. He recognizes the red fur and realizes it is the same wolf from the forest. Wu Jin immediately recognizes the red wolf. It is the same scout wolf from the forest that had been watching him earlier. The beast followed him all the way to the village. Seeing it again, Wu Jin prepares for another fight. He watches the wolf carefully, expecting it to attack. However, something unexpected happens. Instead of attacking, the wolf suddenly drops onto its back and begins wagging its tail. It whimpers and rolls on the ground, showing complete submission. Everyone nearby is confused, including the remaining thugs. The monster that had terrified people in the forest is now acting like a tame animal. Wu Jin watches silently while the wolf continues wagging its tail and looking up at him. After a moment, he begins to understand what might be happening. To test this idea, Wu Jin points toward the remaining thugs. The wolf immediately stops playing. Its posture changes and its eyes focus on the targets. Without hesitation, the beast rushes forward. The thugs have no chance to react. The wolf attacks them with overwhelming speed and strength. Within moments, the attackers are defeated. Blood stains the ground as the wolf finishes the last of them. Jacob is left alone. He looks up in terror as the massive wolf stands over him. Wu Jin calmly watches the scene while the wolf removes the final threat. Realizing he is the last one left, Jacob falls to the ground and begs for mercy. However, his thoughts reveal that he only plans to survive long enough to seek revenge later. Before he can say anything more, Wu Jin steps closer. He drives his sword into the ground directly in front of Jacob's face, stopping him in place. Wu Jin grips his weapon and looks down at Jacob with clear disgust. He can see through the man's begging immediately. The situation reminds him of people from his past life. For a moment, he remembers his old life in Korea. He once sat across from his factory manager, apologizing for things that were not even his fault. When he asked about his unpaid salary, the manager ignored his concerns and talked about the company's difficult situation. At that time, Wu Jin believed that working hard and being patient would eventually solve the problem. Weeks passed, then months, and he still did not receive his pay. One day, he returned to the office to ask again. Instead of addressing the issue, the manager was practicing golf in the office and treated Wu Jin with annoyance. The man accused him of being selfish for demanding his own wages and expected him to continue working quietly. Remembering this, Wu Jin realizes how often he allowed people to take advantage of him. Back in the present, he looks at Jacob and decides he will not repeat the same mistake. He turns away from the man. Seeing an opportunity, Jacob suddenly pulls out a hidden dagger and rushes toward Wu Jin from behind. However, Wu Jin already expects this move. He quickly avoids the attack and stops Jacob before the blade can reach him. Looking directly at him, Wu Jin understands that the man was pretending to beg only to attack at the first chance. Without hesitation, Wu Jin strikes. Jacob collapses, and the threat is finally over. Wu Jin stands quietly for a moment and makes a decision. He will no longer allow anyone to treat him like a helpless person. After the fight ends, the red wolf approaches again. The animal carries a small bag in its mouth and drops it at Wu Jin's feet. Inside the bag are several gold coins. The wolf appears to be offering them to him. Wu Jin looks at the bag of gold the wolf brought him. He did not expect a demonic beast to behave like this. It seems the wolf is offering a tribute. He asks the wolf if it wants to follow him. The wolf reacts immediately and moves closer to him, acting friendly instead of hostile. Seeing this, Wu Jin accepts the gesture and pats the animal. From that moment, the wolf becomes his companion. He decides to call it Mutt. After the events in the village, time passes and a new day begins. Wu Jin wakes up in a real bed. Mutt is lying nearby on the floor. It is the first proper rest he has had since arriving in this world. Later, he washes his clothes and body by a nearby stream. His body is covered in scars from years of fighting monsters. While cleaning the blood from his clothes, Wu Jin thinks about what happened earlier. The men he killed in the tavern were humans, yet he feels no guilt. To him, they were no different from the monsters he fought before. Looking at his reflection in the water, he realizes that he has changed. The long years of survival have made him colder and more practical. However, he decides that surviving in this world matters more than worrying about those changes. After preparing himself, Wu Jin continues his journey with Mutt. Soon the large walls of the 5th Pioneer City appear in the distance. Before entering the city, he tells Mutt to stay hidden nearby. Bringing a demonic beast inside would cause problems. Wu Jin enters the city alone and walks through the busy streets. From the information he read in the chronicles, he knows that monster bounties are handled by the Order Alliance. Following that information, he heads toward their headquarters and arrives at a large building with tall towers and white domes. The Order Alliance is the place where hunters exchange monster trophies for money. Inside the building, a clerk sits at the counter, bored and half asleep. His quiet day changes when Wu Jin walks in carrying a large bundle. Wu Jin places the heavy werewolf pelt on the counter. The weight makes the wooden desk creak. The clerk lazily asks what he wants. At first, he barely looks at the hide and dismisses it as ordinary animal fur. However, when he examines it more closely, his reaction changes immediately. He quickly realizes that it is a genuine werewolf pelt. Shocked, he confirms the quality of the hide and asks Wu Jin if he hunted the monster himself. Wu Jin calmly confirms and explains that he came to collect the bounty. After verifying the item, the clerk leads him to a private room to wait. Later, another official enters the room carrying a heavy pouch. He explains that confirming such a valuable trophy takes time. The pouch is placed on the table. Inside are many gold coins, the reward for the werewolf bounty. Wu Jin looks at the coins and realizes that the amount is enough to live comfortably for several years. As he looks at the gold in his hand, he understands how valuable money is in this world. While he is still examining the reward, the official speaks again. He asks if Wu Jin would be willing to accept another request. A dangerous monster has appeared at a nearby quarry. Because of it, the workers are too afraid to enter the mine. Without workers, the quarry cannot produce bloodstone, which affects the city's economy. The official explains that the creature is believed to be stronger than the werewolf Wu Jin hunted earlier. Even so, he believes Wu Jin might be capable of dealing with it. Wu Jin listens calmly and asks for more information about the monster before making a decision. The official reveals that the monster is called the Mad Skull. The Alliance has placed a bounty of 70 gold coins on it. When Wu Jin hears the name, he immediately recognizes it. He remembers reading about the creature in the survival chronicles. He had also faced one during his 12 years in the Nightmare World. The Mad Skull is known for its extremely hard skull that acts like natural armor. Its bone-like mask is difficult to break with normal weapons. The monster is also highly aggressive and far stronger than a werewolf. Wu Jin recalls that the first time he fought one, it took him an entire month to defeat it, and he died many times during that struggle. The official asks if Wu Jin believes he can handle such a dangerous monster. Wu Jin stays silent for a moment while considering the reward and the risk. After thinking about it, he accepts the request. Later, Wu Jin arrives at the quarry where the Mad Skull has been appearing. The mining site is quiet because the workers have stopped coming due to the monster. Wu Jin moves through the rocky area while recalling what he knows about the creature. While he searches the quarry, someone calls out to him from nearby. A large man steps out and introduces himself as Jonathan, the captain of the Black Marlin mercenaries. He explains that his team arrived first and asks Wu Jin to wait. Wu Jin is not impressed by the idea of waiting in line to hunt a monster. After surviving in the Nightmare World for years, he follows the rule of first come, first kill. Jonathan says he is not looking for trouble and suggests that Wu Jin join their team instead. He explains that hunting together would be faster. Wu Jin considers the offer. Waiting for them to finish would waste time, and he prefers to avoid fighting humans. He decides to cooperate with them for the hunt, even though it means sharing the reward. However, he remains cautious and keeps his guard up. Wu Jin then asks Jonathan why he would invite a stranger when he already has a full team with him. Jonathan laughs and explains that he prefers safety over speed. For him, having more people reduces the risk, even if the reward must be shared. He also says he can tell that Wu Jin is strong. Wu Jin asks how he came to that conclusion. Jonathan points to the large wolf nearby. Mud had appeared from hiding and was now beside the group. A girl named Claire is already interacting with the wolf. She is surprised because wolf monsters are normally independent and almost impossible to tame. While Wu Jin watches, Claire feeds Mud a piece of cooked meat. The wolf focuses completely on the food and ignores everything else. However, when Wu Jin looks at him, Mud immediately drops the food and becomes obedient again. The sudden change surprises the mercenaries. Wu Jin notices the meat on the ground and realizes how hungry he is. After surviving on monster meat and scraps for years, the smell of proper food is difficult to ignore. Claire notices his hesitation and offers him fresh cooked meat. Wu Jin is surprised by the gesture. He did not expect someone in this world to offer him food without asking for anything in return. The group then begins moving deeper into the quarry. Jonathan leads the way while the others follow with lanterns to light the tunnels. While walking, Wu Jin eats the food. It tastes much better than the rough meals he has been living on. As they move through the mine, the group introduces themselves. Jonathan explains that he is the captain of the Black Marlin mercenaries, and Claire introduces herself as well. When it is his turn, Wu Jin gives the name Jin, choosing not to reveal his real identity. Jonathan welcomes him and tells him to ask questions if needed. Soon the group reaches the bottom of the quarry where the hunt will begin. Jonathan immediately starts organizing the team and orders the mercenaries to prepare their nets and take their assigned positions. Jonathan asks Claire if she is ready. She confirms and begins preparing a spell while Wu Jin watches. Feathers start drifting through the air as magical energy gathers around her. She opens a large magic book and a glowing magic circle forms on its pages. Wu Jin realizes that this is the same kind of magic mentioned in the chronicles he studied. Claire casts a spell called Feather Step. Green energy and white feathers spread through the area and surround the mercenaries. Wu Jin immediately feels his body become lighter as the magic takes effect. Jonathan praises Claire's skill. She reminds him that the spell will only last a few minutes. Jonathan then prepares to lure the monster out. His boots glow with magic as he runs into the quarry with great speed, leaving glowing feathers behind him. The rest of the team prepares the trap. They stretch large nets across the quarry floor and take their assigned positions. Wu Jin watches the formation and understands the plan. They intend to lure the Mad Skull into the trap and overwhelm it with coordinated attacks. Soon the monster appears. Jonathan runs toward the Mad Skull to draw its attention. The creature charges after him while he dodges its attacks and leads it toward the trap. At the right moment, the mercenaries pull the ropes. The massive Mad Skull becomes caught in the heavy nets. It struggles violently, thrashing its tusks and body while the team tries to hold it down. For a moment, the trap seems to work. Jonathan immediately signals the spear team to attack before the monster can escape. The hunters move in and surround the trapped beast, preparing to strike from all sides. The mercenaries move in and begin stabbing the trapped Mad Skull with their spears, hoping to finish the fight before it escapes. The monster roars in anger and struggles against the nets. Its strength quickly becomes clear as the ground shakes under its movements. The hunters holding the ropes are almost pulled off their feet. Within moments, the Mad Skull begins tearing through the nets. Wu Jin watches from a distance and realizes the plan is failing. The monster breaks free and throws several mercenaries aside. Panic spreads through the group as their formation collapses. With the last of the nets destroyed, the Mad Skull turns toward the hunters and prepares to attack. It suddenly charges toward Claire. She freezes as the beast rushes toward her, unable to react in time. Before it reaches her, Wu Jin moves forward and places himself between Claire and the monster. He braces himself and grabs one of the creature's large tusks with both hands, stopping its charge. The Mad Skull growls as it tries to push forward, but Wu Jin holds his ground. Claire warns him that the situation is too dangerous, but Wu Jin remains calm. From his experience fighting this monster before, he already understands how it behaves. He releases the tusk and moves quickly. Wu Jin jumps onto the Mad Skull and grabs its tusks. using his balance to avoid the monster's attacks while looking for an opening. The beast continues charging and attacking with great force. Wu Jin keeps moving around it, trying to find a weak point through its thick armor. He swings his blade several times, but realizes that breaking through its defense will not be easy. Even with his strength, fighting the Mad Skull directly begins to strain his body. The Mad Skull continues attacking with its massive tusks, trying to crush Wu Jin. During the fight, Wu Jin briefly loses focus and nearly gets hit. At that moment, white feathers begin to swirl around him. Claire casts another spell from a distance and sends additional mana toward him. The magic strengthens his body and makes him feel much lighter. With a new boost, Wu Jin quickly regains control of the fight. Jonathan and the other mercenaries move forward to help, but Wu Jin tells them to stay back. He decides to handle the fight alone so he can move freely without interference. Using the speed provided by Claire's spell, Wu Jin begins carefully studying the Mad Skull's movements. From his previous experience, he knows the monster's main weakness is its movement during charge. It can run very fast in a straight line, but its large body makes turning difficult. Wu Jin uses this weakness to guide the monster. He moves around the quarry and forces the Mad Skull to chase him. The creature repeatedly crashes into the walls while trying to keep up with his speed. Finally, Wu Jin leads it toward a large stone pillar. The Mad Skull cannot stop its charge in time and slams into the pillar. The impact shakes the area and causes the monster to lose its footing. The creature falls and slides across the ground, leaving it briefly exposed. Wu Jin immediately prepares to finish the fight. He realizes that the monster's tusks are extremely hard and difficult to cut, so he looks for a softer target. He focuses on the nose, which is one of the few vulnerable spots. Moving quickly with the help of the magic buff, Wu Jin strikes the Mad Skull's snout. The blow causes heavy bleeding and forces the monster to cry out in pain. With the creature weakened, Wu Jin continues attacking. Using his speed and precision, he delivers several strikes in quick succession, gradually wearing the monster down. The Mad Skull begins to weaken under Wu Jin's continuous attacks. After taking several precise strikes, the monster collapses. Wu Jin stands over the fallen creature with his blade covered in blood and finishes the fight. A short time later, Jonathan and Claire arrive at the scene. They stop when they see the destruction across the quarry. Before they can approach, Mutt stands between them and the battlefield. The red wolf growls and blocks their path, guarding the area. They wait until Wu Jin finally walks toward them through the dust. His mouth is stained with blood. During the fight, he had consumed the monster's essence. When they ask about the situation, Wu Jin calmly explains that the Mad Skull has already been taken care of. Behind him, the corpse of the creature lies on the ground. The mercenaries are shocked that he managed to defeat the monster alone. While they're still processing what happened, Mutt suddenly becomes alert. The wolf starts sniffing the air and growls toward a nearby tunnel. A second Mad Skull slowly emerges from the darkness. Jonathan prepares for another battle and tells the group to get ready. However, Claire stops everyone when she notices something unusual. The second Mad Skull is not alone. Two small piglets are walking beside it. The group realizes that the monster is a mother protecting its young. Wu Jin watches the situation quietly and does not attack. After a moment, the mother Mad Skull turns away with the piglets and disappears deeper into the ruins. The mercenaries watch as the monster family leaves without another fight. Jonathan and Claire are surprised that Wu Jin lets the mother Mad Skull leave with her piglets. Jonathan explains that the creature was likely only protecting its young. Claire shows some sympathy once the tension fades. Wu Jin says he is satisfied that the situation ended without another fight. Later, the group returns to the Fifth Pioneer City at night. The city is active and well lit compared to the ruins they came from. They go to a tavern to celebrate the successful hunt. Inside, Jonathan congratulates everyone and announces that it is time to divide the reward. The mercenaries cheer and prepare to enjoy food and drinks. When the gold is placed on the table, Claire notices that the amount is larger than expected. Jonathan explains that he negotiated with the client and claimed that the team had faced two Mad Skulls and piglets. Because of the added danger, he demanded a larger payment. The total reward reaches 110 gold coins. The mercenaries approve of the captain's tactic and celebrate the result. Wu Jin asks how the client still paid when the second Mad Skull was not actually fought. Jonathan explains that as long as the client believes the story, the deal stands. After the explanation, Jonathan turns to Wu Jin and thanks him for his contribution during the hunt. He decides that Wu Jin should receive half of the total reward. The rest of the team agrees with the decision. Wu Jin is surprised by the offer because he expected them to keep most of the money. Jonathan insists that without Wu Jin, they would not have succeeded. Wu Jin accepts the reward and begins to reconsider his view of mercenaries. He realizes that cooperation can sometimes work in his favor. To show appreciation, he offers to pay for everyone's drinks that night. The tavern fills with cheers as the group celebrates together. During the celebration, Wu Jin notices that Claire quietly leaves the table. Wu Jin notices Claire leaving the tavern while the others continue celebrating. When he asks where she is going, she explains that she plans to practice magic before resting for the night. Even after the hunt, she remains focused on improving her skills. Later that night, Claire sits on a hill under the moon and begins meditating. Blue mana gathers around her as she concentrates. Wu Jin watches from a distance. He is surprised that she continues training despite being tired after the mission. Seeing the magic in action makes him think about learning it himself. Until now, he has relied only on physical strength, but magic could make him more effective. He approaches Claire and asks if she can teach him. Claire agrees immediately. She explains that she wanted to thank him anyway for protecting her during the battle with the Mad Skull. Jonathan overhears the conversation and reminds them that learning magic takes time. Their group is also scheduled to leave the village in 2 days. He suggests that Wu Jin travel with them if he wants to continue learning from Claire. Jonathan also asks why someone as strong as Wu Jin would want to join their group. Wu Jin avoids the question and instead asks where they are heading next. Jonathan explains that they are traveling to the 4th Pioneer City for another job. Wu Jin says that he was already planning to go there and asks if he can join their caravan. Jonathan and Claire realize he is not being completely honest, but they agree anyway. Jonathan welcomes him to the group. Soon the group begins their journey. Instead of horses, they travel on the back of a massive armored creature called a Tarrasque, a monster that humans have domesticated to transport goods across long distances. Wu Jin is surprised by its size and learns that such creatures are commonly used for travel in this world. The caravan sets out toward the 4th Pioneer City. That night during the journey, Wu Jin sits alone and begins practicing meditation as Claire instructed. He quickly realizes that learning magic is difficult and requires constant repetition. Wu Jin continues practicing meditation to sense mana. Sweat covers his body, but he refuses to stop. Claire demonstrates by creating a small light orb and explains that learning magic takes time and patience. Wu Jin focuses on the exercises she taught him. The process is repetitive and slow, but he keeps going. His past experience surviving the nightmare world helps him endure the frustration. After 10 days of training, he finally senses a small reaction. A tiny blue spark appears in front of him. For the first time, he can feel the mana in the air responding. Claire is pleased with the progress. She explains that many people never manage to sense mana at all. Now that he can feel it, they move to the next stage of training. Claire prepares a ritual to help him contain mana inside his body. She pours a glowing blue liquid into a small basin and explains that it will be used during the process. She then instructs Wu Jin to remove his clothes so she can draw a magic circle directly on his back. Under the moonlight in the forest, Claire dips her fingers into the glowing liquid and carefully draws the circle across his skin. While doing so, she notices the many scars on his back from past battles. Once the circle is completed, she tells him to concentrate and prepare for the next step. Wu Jin closes his eyes and enters deep meditation. Claire places her hand near the magic circle and begins the ritual. Mana starts flowing through the circle and enters Wu Jin's body. Blue light spreads across the campsite as the energy moves through him. Wu Jin feels a strong surge of power traveling inside his body, heavier and more intense than anything he has experienced before. The mana continues moving through Wu Jin's body, forming a path inside him. Claire asks if he can feel it, and Wu Jin confirms that he can. The sensation is strong, but he manages to remain calm. She explains that he has completed the first stage of magic training. According to her, learning magic involves 3 basic stages. The first stage is sensing mana. The second stage is containing that mana inside the body. The third stage is using the stored energy to cast spells. Since Wu Jin handled the infusion well, Claire decides to move directly to the second stage. She instructs him to guide the mana inside his body toward his heart so that it can be stored there. Wu Jin focuses on controlling the energy, but the process becomes difficult. The pressure from the mana continues to increase while he tries to keep it stable. The magic circle on his back glows brightly as the ritual continues. At that moment, Claire's consciousness is suddenly pulled into Wu Jin's mental space. Inside, she finds herself in a dark an unfamiliar place. A massive mantis-like creature stands there, covered in spikes and surrounded by an oppressive presence. Its many red eyes stare directly at her. The sight immediately overwhelms her. She realizes that the mental world inside Woojin is extremely abnormal. The mana around her becomes unstable, and the connection between them begins to break. Back in the forest, the ritual loses control. Claire feels her own mana being drained rapidly. Before the situation becomes worse, Mutt suddenly appears from the shadows. The red wolf moves forward and uses its tail to pull Claire away from the ritual. Mutt stands beside her, its blue eyes glowing while it guards both her and Woojin. Claire watches the wolf in shock, realizing that the creature just prevented the ritual from completely overwhelming her. Mutt does not attack, but stands protectively between Claire and Woojin. His behavior makes it clear that he is guarding his master. Claire realizes that the wolf likely stepped in because the ritual had become dangerous. Woojin turns and notices that she has collapsed on the ground. He calmly asks if she is all right, unaware of what she experienced during the ritual. Claire struggles to respond. She had briefly seen Woojin's mental realm. Every person has a mental space that reflects their nature and experiences. Normally, it appears calm or neutral, but the place she saw inside Woojin was completely different. In his mental world, she witnessed a massive mantis-like creature surrounded by countless red eyes. The presence felt predatory and unnatural. Even while speaking to him, the image still lingers in her mind. Claire becomes serious and asks him a direct question. She wants to know if he has ever consumed a mana core, the crystal found inside monsters. Woojin is confused by her reaction and casually confirms that he has eaten them before. Claire is shocked that he survived at all and asks how many he consumed. Woojin explains that he has been eating them for about 10 years and has consumed thousands of them during that time. Claire is alarmed by the answer. She explains that humans are not supposed to consume mana cores. According to common knowledge, a person who eats even one core will either die from the power or eventually turn into a monster. Woojin listens to the explanation but does not appear concerned. Under the moonlight, he remains focused on the power he has gained rather than the danger she describes. Karma is the name given to the dark energy that fills the demonic realm. Living beings that absorb this energy can develop unusual abilities. When karma gathers inside a monster's body for a long time, it forms a monster core, which acts as the creature's internal nucleus. The next morning, the group prepares to travel to the fourth pioneer city. While they're getting ready, Claire remains troubled by something. She remembers stories from the past. When the otherworldly gate opened and karma spread across the world, some humans began following the monsters that absorbed it. These people called the monsters angels. They consumed monster cores and even sacrificed humans to monsters. Those followers were known as dark priests. Claire recalls Woojin saying that he had been eating monster cores for nearly 10 years. She begins to wonder if he could be connected to those people. However, she quickly doubts it. A dark priest would never openly admit to eating monster cores, nor would they show their mental world to someone else. Still, the situation feels strange to her. Even if Woojin did not know the danger, she cannot understand why someone would eat monster cores in the first place. When she asks him about it, Woojin simply explains that he once saw monsters eating the cores and decided to copy them. Claire immediately warns him to stop doing that. She tells him that he has only survived so far by chance, and that continuing could kill him. Woojin thinks about her warning. According to her explanation, eating monster cores should either kill a person or turn them into a monster. Yet he has survived for years. He also begins to question whether the changes in his behavior, such as feeling no guilt after killing and constantly wanting to fight, might be connected to the cores. He says that he will try to stop. Claire becomes angry and insists that he must stop completely. She also adds that continuing to eat monster cores could prevent him from using magic. This statement immediately shocks Woojin. Claire explains that although his condition may make mana manifestation difficult, he should still be able to use something called mana arts. Woojin asks what mana arts are. After some time traveling, the group finally reaches the fourth pioneer city. Inside the city, they walk through busy streets until they reach a large plaza with a fountain. Many mercenaries have gathered there. Woojin notices the crowd and comments on the number of mercenaries present. Claire explains that the request they came for is very large, and that it is being overseen by a holy knight. Soon a man appears among the crowd, Holy Knight Raymond. Woojin observes him and immediately senses that his presence is far stronger than that of ordinary mercenaries. He asks Claire if crowds usually gather when a holy knight is involved. Claire explains that this mission was requested by someone known as the Golden Bug. Wu Jin asks if that name refers to some kind of insect monster. Claire tells him that the Golden Bug is not a monster, but a famous businessman. Jonathan adds that the Golden Bug was one of the wealthiest figures around. However, the man died suddenly not long ago. Wu Jin asks if the Golden Bug died suddenly because he was murdered. Jonathan replies that there are rumors about that, but nothing has been confirmed. Wu Jin then wonders why so many people have gathered if the Golden Bug is already dead. Jonathan explains that the Golden Bug had 2 sons. They inherited his fortune, and the job now is to transport that wealth inside the protective barrier. That is the request that brought all the mercenaries together. Wu Jin realizes that moving the fortune of such a wealthy man would naturally attract many mercenary groups. Soon an announcement calls the Black Marlin mercenary group forward. Jonathan pulls Wu Jin with him, saying that it is finally their turn. Inside the registration room, Jonathan introduces Wu Jin as the strongest fighter in their group. He claims that Wu Jin defeated a mad skull and tamed a werewolf. The people inside react with surprise and begin whispering. Some mention the nickname Head Crusher. Wu Jin is confused by the nickname, but Jonathan tells him to accept it for now because it helps their reputation. A white-haired official announces that the Black Marlin group will receive 100 gold coins, and the mission will begin the next morning. Wu Jin is surprised that transporting cargo pays so much. Jonathan explains that half of the payment is for the work, and the other half depends on the reputation of mercenaries. Wu Jin's new nickname helped them receive a better rate. Jonathan then explains that Head Crusher refers to how Wu Jin defeats monsters. Wu Jin thinks the nickname is poorly chosen, but he also realizes that having a reputation could help him attract attention and eventually learn mana arts. Later that night, the scene shifts to the mercenary quarters. Inside, an arena fight is taking place while spectators watch and cheer. Wu Jin prepares to enter the arena. Claire asks if he is sure about participating. Wu Jin explains that he wants to attract the attention of the Holy Knight so he can learn mana arts. According to the chronicles, Holy Knights often show interest in strong fighters. Wu Jin enters the arena and studies the surroundings. His first opponent attacks immediately, but Wu Jin easily avoids the strike and counters with a series of blows. The opponent falls to the ground. The crowd cheers and calls him Head Crusher. Another fighter steps forward as the next challenger. Wu Jin defeats opponent after opponent, continuing to win multiple matches without being injured. While fighting, he focuses on drawing the Holy Knight's attention. He believes that defeating many opponents will make the Knight notice him. From a balcony above the arena, Holy Knight Raymond watches the fight. After observing Wu Jin's performance, he tells his companion Rex to fight him. Rex is annoyed at the idea of facing a mercenary. Wu Jin notices the situation and realizes that the Knight intends to test him through his apprentice. At that moment, Wu Jin refuses the challenge. He does this deliberately, intending to begin negotiations that could lead to him learning mana arts. Rex stares at him in surprise.